Rogers TV delivers the local results. Rogers TV. Watch, learn, vote. You're watching Rogers TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Attack Wrap here on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Nick Kennedy. And before we get into our interview with the general manager, Mr. Dale DeGray, we'll quickly pull up. We got a couple of graphics here for you. The OHL coaches poll recently came out, and a couple of Bears found their way onto that list. You've got Captain Landon Hookey was voted most improved. Tristan DeLille, best on faceoffs. Carter George getting 2 call-outs there for best puck-handling goalie and second for best shootout goalie as well. So congratulations to those guys there. We've got the NHL final draft rankings as well. If you took a look, they came out, I believe, actually earlier today. On the North American skaters list, David Bedkowski finds his way to 62nd place there on that list. Jay Crawford to 173rd. So they're getting ready now for the NHL draft. And goalies, both Matthew Kaprowski, and Trenton Bennett finding their way onto the list. Matthew, of course, going 9th in NHL or at North American goalies, and Trenton 17th for him. Big call out as well for Owen Sound attack goalie Carter George. He had his first pro game the other day, and I believe he stopped all 33 shots. So good for Carter George as he heads off to play with the Ontario Reign for the rest of their season. And congratulations to Pierce Bowie and, of course, Andy Brown, both getting named to Team Canada's U18s. Back in studio here, I'm joined via Zoom by General Manager Dale DeGray. Dale, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, listen, thanks for having me, Nick. Even though it's through Zoom, but thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. Always one of my favorite shows when we can get you on and talk hockey. I feel like I learn a lot, so I'm looking forward to learning a lot today.
The year end just a little bit too early though for us.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I would have liked to learn a little more, but
yeah, next year it's a little longer.
Yeah, perfect. Well, talking a little bit about the year, do you have a highlight from this year when you kind of think back to how it played out? Is there a moment or two that sort of stand out to you as a moment you'll remember for this season?
Yeah, I don't know if I could. I think this year we had a lot of highlights for me. Whether it was Carter's play, Landon Hookey's play, Pierce Bowie's play, like even just the success we had, as a young group. The success that the coaches had with this young group. The ability, like trade for Cole Zarowski, it's another highlight. There, like there's just so many. Then you get that rule change, the NCAA rule. Yeah, it kind of affects us, but it doesn't in a sense. But honestly, that's a heck of a highlight. And then probably at the end, I would say, once again making the playoffs. And I know probably last September there was a lot of people that probably thought, I was delusional when I said that we were going to make the playoffs with the group that we were going to have. But listen, the coaches and the players pulled it through and did it. I said to somebody the other day, I said we needed all 68 games plus 24 hours. So that's the way it works sometimes.
Oh, excellent. Well, I remember hearing you say that, and I was surprised to hear it, but excuse me. Very happy with obviously as making the playoffs, and I think you'd probably say the same thing, that great 4-game sort of experience for some of these young kids that they now know what it takes to play playoff OHL hockey.
And Nick, I think that's the big factor why I always say our goal is to make the playoffs. I mean, it's one thing to play throughout the season and do whatever you can do. But I think, I know from the NHL scouts, they want to see, you play a team like London, right, where you play back to back games, and how do you respond? And, whether win, lose, or draw, how do you come back the next night, or shift in, shift out? And those are telltale signs for NHL scouts as to how individuals are going to be, whether they're going to have success or not. And it really does start. And, I've said to the kids, in the dressing room before playoffs started, you want to be known as a playoff performer. You hear about it. You put the NHL games on all the time. Anybody that's an NHL performer, that's a star performer, they bring their A game, seems like every year in April. And those are guys that everybody knows about. And that's what they want. That's what they're looking for. And the only way to get there is, honestly, getting in the playoffs.
Excellent. I know a couple of, and you probably saw more than I did here, but a couple individual playoff efforts that I just thought really stood out and kind of showed that Owen Sound attack style. I remember watching in that fourth game at the Bayshore, and puck is in our own zone. We're down by 3 or 4 goals at that point, and there's maybe 5 minutes left in the game, maybe less. And David Bedkowski gets out there and blocks back-to-back one-timers from Haltman on the Knights, who obviously was voted hardest shot. So, just the dedication to this team, understanding, this is a feat that we may not overcome, and it may not have any impact on the outcome of the game, but it certainly seemed to have an impact on these players, because you see guys like him doing that, Carter wanting to step back in and finishing that period, even Matthew Kaprowski, who he didn't play a game in the playoffs this year, but you see him, he's getting excited. He's trying to grab sticks when kids break them and trying to get them out there. And, he's trying to have a presence in the game, even though he's not on the ice. So just an all around wonderful effort to see from this team.
Yeah. And I think, you talk about the individuals, and it's those individuals that, it's like you said, I mean, it's the mentorship. Do you know what I mean? It's, you have a chance to sit there and sit beside and watch on a daily basis what players do and what guys do to be ready, and you talked about, Matt Kaprowski, and, he didn't play, but, I was amazed. I really was. Before the game, I would see him, he would be focused. He'd be sitting in the stands and he'd be going through his routine. And I'm like, okay, there's a young man who's really taken steps to figure out, what and how he can be his best. So, yeah, okay, he's playing behind Carter, which maybe isn't the best thing for a backup goalie, but I think he's turned it into an incredible positive, because he's really turned his game around in the last probably 2 months of the season, month and a half of the season. I could really see strides, and that is because of who his mentor is. And he's taken it to heart, and he's really, really starting to push himself forward.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Obviously, so many wonderful moments from that team in the playoffs. Obviously, how do you prepare a team? Like, do you go in and chat with these guys before they go and face off a team like London? Obviously, London built for, really trying to go all in this year, trying to have Memorial Cup success like they missed out on last year. So are you going into the room at all? Are you talking to the guys, or are you focused on talking to the coaches, or do you just kind of, they know what to do and you leave them to do what they got to do?
Yeah, the only thing that I do is talk to the coaches, and I've been there, the amount of time that I've played against the London Knights, as frustrating as it is, but that's it. It's for them to pass the message on, or however they see the message to be passed on to the players. But I don't think this year there was ever a time where I was worried about the message, or are they ready? I just said earlier, the coaches, they were amazing this year, and they really, really prepared the kids and pushed the kids. We had a lot of kids succeed, even if it was marginally. But that's all you want to see. You want to see kids get better every single year. And hopefully by the time they're done and they move on, that they can sit there and they can say they've had a great experience, and they're better young men and better players for it. And I think this year was year one for these coaches. And it'll be interesting to see, where some of these kids are, like in 3 years, in 4 years. It's exciting to watch. And I think our fans, they agree. I mean, with how they showed up in the playoffs for us and the players, I think was amazing. It was amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? Like I'm never too um, proud or afraid to praise you guys, but just a reflection of what you've been able to build here with this team. Certainly, I think this year was one of those. Even though we may not have gotten the same result that we would have wanted on end of games, I think more people left excited this year than I've ever seen. And I mean, I haven't been here that long, but I'm sure you could feel the palpable excitement from the fans this year, looking at this new young core, looking at this new group of coaches that really, like, day in and day out, they are on the ice and they're coaching and they're taking time to work through these things with kids. And they're showing them by example. They're cooling down with the kids after. Like, just a wonderful reflection of, I think, what you talked about is getting back to Owen Sound attack style hockey.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I mean, you know where I stand at every game that I'm there, and it's, I mean, I see the people all around me, the people that go by, and it really was. It was an exciting group to be around this year, and to be a part of it was outstanding, and to see them have success, and you know what, maybe sometimes not even have the success that they were hoping for, and then to be able to come back and build on that, and try to be better and do better, and then actually go out and do better and be better is what it's all about. And I think that's where, like you referred to there, that's what the fans saw. And I know that they like their blue collar hockey. And I think this year there was a high degree of blue collar hockey. And I think you're only going to see it, enhanced next year. And, hopefully we put more wins together, and it'll be a little bit better, a little easier to play come the end of the season next year.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, if you are watching at home and you have a question for General Manager Dale DeGray, you can go ahead and send that in via phone, text, or email there, and we will make sure to get your question asked. Dale, I do have a question for you that was sent in by Eleanor Both, and she wants to know, what does an average day in the OHL look like for one of our players?
Well, it's changed this year because our coaches, they decided that they wanted to get the kids out of bed early and get them into the gyms. So they're at the gym for 7:30. The gym, I don't know if everybody knows, but we have a gym right at the arena, just 25 steps, 20 steps from the dressing room, which is a great luxury. So they hit the gym at 7:30, especially the school boys. They hit it at 7:30. They're out of the arena by 8:30, 20 to 9, and they're in school until 10 to 12. And then they come to the arena. They're at the arena. They have lunch at the arena. And then they do what we call rink school with the classroom that we have in just outside of the dressing room. And they take 2 classes there. So for us, the boys, the school boys are very busy. They have 4 classes. It's something that we've sort of mandated for the kids, that grade 11, they get their 8 credits, and then grade 12, they get their 6 credits. So it's not a holiday for those kids by any means. The older boys, they can be there at 7:30, or sometimes they show up for 10 o'clock, what we call breakfast club. It could be on ice, it could be off ice, and then they're done around noon, and then they go home, have their lunch, and then they come back. Practice for everybody is from 2:30 to 4:30. We seldom use the 2 hours of ice, but that's basically the day. If we only use an hour of ice, I can guarantee you the kids aren't leaving. They're on the ice playing around, having fun. I mean, it's, anytime you have free ice and you can do what you want for as long or as little as you want, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there was a practice this year that Ethan Kindry didn't use all 2 hours of that ice. So
he would be one of those guys, Nick. You're right. He would be first on, last off. He's one of those kids for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Eleanor, for your question. You've been entered to win. It's hard to see right now, but this black jersey behind me has been signed by the entire Owen Sound Attack team. So thank you for your question. You have been entered to win this jersey. Dale, I thought we'd take a little look here at the draft. Obviously, this is what everybody's been talking about lately. You guys had the OHL priority entry draft here this past weekend. And I think it seems like you got your guy, like the guy that you've been. That's just the sense that I get. I don't know, but he was already up here, so I'm guessing this was the guy you wanted.
Well, yes, for sure. He was. He's only ever been on our list at first or second. He's never fallen to third. So yeah, he was a guy that we had thought that we could hopefully get. And of course, having Max DeLille is the guy we're talking about, but having his brother Tristan in the locker room already, and he'd come up actually a couple times at the end of the year and in playoffs, which was pretty cool. Like, it was pretty nice, like, to see a young lad that we thought we had a chance to get and talk with him and shake his hand and show him around the dressing room before this ever even happened, right? So, yeah, but he was definitely a guy that we had targeted. But honestly, it's a draft, and you really don't know. Like, Nick, you don't know. And the only reason he was there, the only reason that he was there was that the 4 players before him had to be at the OHL office for the show. So as long as I knew that he could come to Owen Sound, he was free to take. So had we picked a pick later or 2 picks later, I don't think I could have done that. Felt comfortable, but because I knew that he was able to be there, nobody told him that he needs to be at the OHL office.
Now, I've heard, so when you're watching the draft there, the common phrase that gets tossed out about most players is, this is a high skill player. They've got good hands. They're good in around the net, or they've got big size. With Max, the word gritty came up a couple of times. And is this something that you saw in his game during his run at the OHL Cup, or what is it about Max's game that you really were like, yeah, this is a good fit for this team?
Well, we talked about blue collar, right? And you know what? Grit is a part of his game. There's no question. But it's just another part, Nick. He does everything very well. He's a very good skater. He's got good hands. He's got a good shot. He's deceptive. He works hard. He finishes his check. He back checks. Like, the cliche of 200-foot player would suit him. But I always talk about a player. Yeah, okay, you can see the obvious, but you have to start peeling back the onion and see what sort of layers are there. He has multiple layers in his game, and it's exciting that we're able to bring him in. It really is.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure the DeLille family is very happy to only have one stop on their little OHL tour right now.
I think that was their preference for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll go to round 2 here. You got a guy, Blake Munnins from Quinte. I believe maybe the second Quinte player on the team now. I think we had one last year.
Rogers.
What we had? Rogers, yep, Quinte player. Yep. I think even was Jackson Stewart from there as well. I can't remember where
Stewie was too. Yes, Stewie was. Yep.
So, I mean, they're putting out good players, and Blake was the captain of his team. Did you draft him for, like, does he have these leadership qualities that you'd really like to kind of see mentored throughout his time with the Attack?
Yeah, I think Blake was probably the team's best player, and great feet. I actually went and presented him with his jersey on Sunday, but he has great feet. He has a very good hockey IQ. He moves pucks. He can rush the puck. He can play the power play. He can walk the blue line. A lot of things that you want an offensive guy to do. And the first thing I said to him when I met him with his mom was that, holy smokes, you're bigger than I thought you were. It's like, he's already 6'1", 180 pounds. So he's got real good size for an offensive type player on the back end. I'm really looking forward to seeing him at our camp.
Excellent. Yeah, 185 pounds. Like, you wonder how kids that young are able to put on that much weight and still be as quick as they are.
and he looks thin, Nick. Like he
Really?
looks thin. Yeah. So it's not like, we're going to talk about another guy coming up, but he really does. He looks thin.
Well, I maybe this is the guy you're talking about at 207.62. Landon Jackman coming out of Little Caesars. Like
That's
you
the
just
guy.
keep finding these. I mean, we've got Trenton Bennett who's around, obviously Bedsy, you've got Hooks, just gigantic players. Another one here to add to that list.
Yeah, you know what? Landon is a big, strong, powerful kid. He's got a great shot. He's got good feet. As you know what, his feet need to improve. They've got to get a little bit quicker. But he's 15. And maybe he's got to get a little bit more in shape. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Andy Plater will have something to say about that, I'm sure. But I'm going to be honest with you. The first couple times I watched him, I figured he'd be a top 5, top 10 pick in the draft. So he has those abilities. He really does. He plays hard. He's hard to knock off the puck, obviously. But another blue collar, play in the dirty area type player with good skills, like very good skills.
Excellent. Yeah, it looks like he'll be a great fit here on this team, obviously. And next up here, it looks like we got another American coming to town here in Nicholas Sikora. So you drafted a bunch of 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, and then here's Nicholas, who's an 07. Tell me a little bit about what you guys were talking about in the room. Obviously, this seems like a player who might be able to fit in relatively quickly and doesn't necessarily need as much time to develop.
Well, that's exactly it. He's an 07, played in the USHL for 2 years. Is probably, from what I hear, is going to be a 3rd, 4th round NHL pick. So at that point, I think, we're rolling the dice a little bit here. But I'm trying to play a little bit of the odds. If he gets drafted, maybe the NHL team will say, hey, have you thought about playing in the OHL? Because it's not going to hurt him if he ends up going to school, right? So that doesn't have to come into play anymore. And the other underlying current with this young man is that I played a short stint with his father, Peter, in Detroit with the Detroit Vipers in the old International Hockey League. So he and I both know each other. I know we were one of the teams that he was looking to maybe get to. So fingers crossed, like who knows, right? It's still the draft and everybody has open doors. And so we'll see how it plays out. But I can tell you right now, Nick, we get him. He will add to the offense. He'll certainly add to our depth for sure. Instantaneously too, right? Like you said.
Amazing. And I mean, it seems like, you still have to, even though this NCAA rule has changed, it seems like there are still, gambles that need to be made to really kind of achieve that winning threshold. Tell us a little bit about how you manage that now. Obviously, it's a little bit different where people can report. And so, I think you might see more players report than last year. Maybe not all of them. How do you kind of play that dance a little bit?
Well, that's exactly it. It's hard to tell, right? So now that we've got a couple of those kids drafted. We drafted Colin McCray a little bit farther down. Similar sort of situation. Does he go to school? Does he get drafted? Does he consider coming to the league? If these guys both consider coming to the league, then we've automatically got a better, deeper team just from those two players. Never mind anybody else that comes in and shows us that they deserve to play. So, but it's like you said, it's still a bit of a gamble. But when we looked at this, we took Max DeLille. We took a forward, a defenseman, and then a forward. And we're sitting there going, okay, you know what? Other than the goaltenders, which we thought we would take day 2, let's reach for the stars a little bit here with the Sikora boy, right? So we did, and we thought, okay, that's a perfect fit. Maybe things will, instead of being 50-50, maybe it's 75-25, we get him, right? If he gets drafted. You know what? You play the odds a little bit. Hey, who knows? I might be, way out in left field. I don't know, but I think you have to take those chances from time to time. to put yourself in a situation to maybe have a little bit faster success than just drafting a bunch of 15-year-olds, especially now with the NCAA rule. That's what I think.
Excellent. Well, your next pick here in round 4, you seem to go back to the Toronto Titans and were able to find Gavin Yin. So I'm not going to say smaller, shorter, like 5'11", but 202 pounds for a young kid. Like, what is it? Is this kid just like a Ty Domi build? Is he short and stout and you can't knock him down?
Yeah, well, I think he's taller than 5'11", but that's okay. But he is solid on his feet. He's moves pucks. Like he's a real good two-way defense. Like he's a very good player, and he's a guy that we liked all year, and he'll come into his own. You know, it might be tough for him as a 16-year-old, but we'll work with him to try to see where he is as a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old. And no, another guy that's got lots of upside.
Excellent. And then the goalie. You talked looking at goalie day 2, round 5, pick 97. You're able to pick up Eli Winters. So Eli Winters looks like he's coming from the States as well. Fox Motors. Guessing that's USHL, or is that?
No, that's minor midget. Yeah, so, but he's a goalie, Nick, that he's going to be playing with the U.S. national program. So he's kind of there for 2 years. And, you know, some people would say, well, why would you take him? You know, you're not going to even see him for 2 years. But that would be somebody who doesn't know our situation in Owen Sound with probably three NHL drafted goalies. We don't need him this year, right? We might need him in 2 years. We don't need him this year. And that's where, you know, he can go and develop and play with the U.S. program, travel all over the world, play in so many international games, play in the USHL. I think it's a pretty smart move for us that we don't have to worry about him. We don't have to worry about his conditioning. You know, all of that is going to come just because he's playing with the U.S. development program.
Well, you mentioned our goalie situation there with potentially 3 NHL drafted goalies, and I've left this so we've only got about 60 seconds, so you can't divulge much in that time. But how do you, as a general manager, where you've got, you know, the best CHL goalie, you've got 2 others that are about to be NHL drafted goalies, very likely. How do you manage that?
I have no idea. It's going to be, listen, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. You know, the one thing was, you know, when we went to the Memorial Cup, we had what they called the 3-headed monster back then. And, you know, we're in a real good spot as far as goaltending goes. And we'll just have to see in September. They're all going to be there in September. And we'll see how it all plays out, because honestly, you just don't know. You don't know. And I know that it'll play itself out. I just don't know how it's going to play itself out. But totally we're in a pretty darn good situation to see it through.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, we're going to head to break. Dale, thanks so much. We'll be right back here on Rogers TV. Don't forget to send in your questions for more Attack Wrap. We'll see you in a minute.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
In baseball, there's nothing more important than making it home.
George Springer has tied the game.
Doesn't matter how you get there.
It's gone!
But I do it with style.
Boy, has he got some kind of power.
And a little swagger, too.
Because no matter where you happen to be,
what a play!
There's only one place.
Got it!
Jays fans call home.
Sportsnet, home of the Blue Jays.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hi, I'm Carol Merton, host of We All Belong, Our Neighbors, Our Community, a new Rogers TV series promoting the diversity of our community in Grey County. Please join me on Rogers TV.
To Rogers TV for today's episode of Attack Wrap. Joining me here via Zoom is Owen Sound Attack General Manager Dale DeGray. Dale, we left off there talking a little bit about the goalie situation. I wanted to jump into round 7 here. You're back picking from the Sun County Panthers. I don't know if we've had anybody from that team on the Attack for a while, at least not since I've been around, but you got, they had a great year, it looks like, and obviously Alexander Lisi is a big part of that, and you guys are able to pick him up at 128. What was it about his game that really brought you to like him?
You know what? On our staff, he was actually one of the guys everybody loved. Like every night, you wouldn't necessarily go looking for him. You wouldn't. He was sort of a secondary guy. But I will guarantee you that you would leave, whether you were talking about him or everybody would have to do a report on him because he was that noticeable in the game. Worked hard, had success, did all the things, that we want to see as an attack type player. And I honestly, every single game, it was amazing. It was amazing. You'd go and all of a sudden, a play would happen and you would go, who set that up? At least he set it up. It's like, it was just constant. So he was one of those guys that it was just a matter of where do you select him? Where can you select him? Because we knew he wasn't going to be a top, say 3-4 round guy, but it's just, where do you, so we were quite happy getting him where we got him.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like you said, a hardworking, undersized player. We've got one of those on the team already. You took him, I think, 7th overall last year, and he's been one of our best players.
Worked out okay.
It worked out all right. So I think that'll be great. Next up here, also in round 7, we got Cullen McCrate. Now, Cullen's coming, another American here. I know we're seeing a few more Americans, I think, with the NCAA rules. So have you guys had to, since that rule came through, sort of increase scouting operations south of the border?
Actually, you know what? We did. We hired a young man, Jim Roth, nicknamed Silver Fox. That's what he goes by. But he was amazing. He did a great job for us. We brought him on after Christmas or around the Christmas time, and wealth of knowledge, knows everybody. I can't say enough about him, but he did. He brought some insight to us regarding some of the American kids. And so I think I did we draft 6, I think 5 or 6 Americans.
I think 6.
Okay. Yeah. So you know what? He was a big part of it. And it'll probably be, as long as the rules stay the same. Now, I think next year you might find less older kids, you know what I mean, will be going, like 2 years in. I doubt they'll be going because we will have had a chance to see them this year. But yeah, so I think it worked very well for us.
All right, this next player in round 8 here, this is a mouthful, so you're gonna have to.
I was gonna say, I want to hear you say it. I want to hear you.
I'm going with Adam Sensinski. I'm not too sure. That's as close as I can get.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. You know what? He was the Northern Ontario Hockey Association's Player of the Year. Good size, he does everything very well, and has size. I love the fact that you can bring in, like for us, he was Player of the Year. We got the Player of the Year in the 8th round. I can't wait to see him at camp. I love the way he plays. He's got good skills. He's got good feet, good size, nothing not to like. It'll be interesting to see, when he comes in.
Are people just falling down that low when you play in Sault Ste. Marie, or are they just not wanting to go up there in the winter to scout these guys out?
I don't know. That might just be the case, right? But they come down. They put a Northern Ontario team together, and they come down and play in some of the tournaments and stuff. So, and I thought he did very well.
Excellent. Well, now coming out of Oakville here, you've got Alexi Sawaya. Now, when you get this low in the draft, what are some of the qualities that you're looking for? Obviously, a player that's coming in round, maybe 9 to 15. Not sure if there's somebody you're looking for immediate production out of, or are you looking for somebody who's got this quality, and we feel like we can train this quality that maybe they don't have yet?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do throughout the year is that when we scout kids, if we really like them and if we think they have the qualities of what we deem to be an attacker type player, then I can highlight them with a tab. So every time that somebody would go to watch Oakville, Sawaya would come up, it would be a red color. So everybody would have, anybody that watched that game, I want a report on that player. He's one of those guys. We deemed him as being an attack player, plays hard, good feet, whatever. And so when you get in the later rounds, if we can draft in the last 6 or 7 picks, if we can draft 4 or 5 attack type players, it's easy. Like, it makes selecting players, I don't care who's there. If we can select an attack type player, that's what we want to do.
Excellent. Well, we'll jump then to round 10. Tell us a little bit about Stephen Cover. Is it Cover?
I call him Cover, but I'm sure he'd go by either. But really skilled. He is really a little bit undersized, but really skilled. We'll see how this September. Like, some of these kids, I don't know if they're going to be there at training camp. Like, I know even the Sawaya, I think he's looking at maybe going to a prep school in the States. Now, he's from Oakville, but I do think that's what he might be doing. And it might be actually a school that one of our old scouts is the coach at. So we will get really good reports if that's the case, and I think it might be. But with Stephen Cover, he's just a real good, skilled. It'll be interesting to see. I think he's already got a commitment to school too.
Okay. Now, how do you manage, we'll say, like, the prep school kind of direction? Obviously, we had a couple of guys coming up from prep school this year, Michael Deck most notably. Put him in the lineup and he just happens to score goals. So good work for Michael. How do you, like, now that this deal has been signed with the NCAA, are you going to see prep school guys coming to camp, or do they have camp at the same time and they kind of have to pick and choose?
Yeah, so I think every school, every situation will be a little bit different. I talked to a coach just the other day that was at a different school. They are not going to have their training camp until Labor Day weekend. So that's a weekend ours. I won't be shocked if St. Andrews now does or starts to do the same sort of thing. The lay of the land's changed, and I think it would be wise if that was the case, so that the kids could come to their junior camps and spend a couple or 4 days or whatever it is at those camps, and everybody can get a better taste of where everything is at, because that's the whole idea, Nick. It's a lot quickly with all these kids, and the more time you can spend around, whether it's Carter George or whoever it is, the better it is for them to get a feel of what it's like to come into Owen Sound and like the day-to-day life, like that one lady who had the question for us earlier. What's that day like? And then they get an idea and they can talk to their parents about it. And maybe it's not for them. Maybe it is, right? Maybe they've had a great summer and a young lad at 10 or 9, we're sitting there going, he needs to stay here, right?
Excellent. Well, you mentioned our question from earlier. We just got another one sent in here from Lisa Murdoch. Now, I don't know how much you can really get into this one, but her question, I'll read it to you and you can answer it however you want. She says, I'm wondering how you are feeling about our Russian import Rafik Voroshian returning next year. Now, don't give us too much on that, obviously, but that's her question. So I'll leave that for you.
Yeah, it's, you know what, and it's tough. I mean, both imports this year, you know what, there was games when they both played remarkably well, and we would be excited to have them back. But there were also games where you're wondering, boy, you know, could we have a redo and look at it again? You know, I've always said you're better off with the devil you know than the devil you don't, right? I think Rafik, I think if he comes back next year, I think he'll be better for the year that he's had. I think, you know, he has a better understanding of, you know, the arena, the rink isn't another, you know, 15 feet wider like it is where back home. And things happen pretty quick. I know at our exit meetings, he was shocked at how good the players were, how fast they were, how strong they were. But those are all things that if he comes back, he already knows about. It's a good question. I can tell you that we have not made any decisions on either one of them because that draft's not until after the NHL draft, so sometimes in June. You know, but we also don't know what might be on the table. You know, we're going to be picking 15th. An NHL team might say, "Hey, you know, we're gonna draft this player, or we're looking at this player. Would you consider him?" You know, or what even happens more than that, Nick, now is that a lot of the good NCAA schools have a lot of real good European kids, and they might want to come to the OHL now for a couple of years as opposed to going USHL. And that has been a topic of conversation with a number of agents. And if you can get some high-end guys where they send over to watch, it hasn't happened for us yet, but I know that it's happening, and we'll see. Like I said, I really like both kids. You know, can we upgrade on them both? Maybe, but honestly, maybe not. You don't know.
Excellent. When you draft in the European import draft, when you declare that you're making a pick, do you have to have an available card, or can you draft and then decide who you're using your cards on?
No, you'll make that decision probably. I think it's a week or two before the draft. You know, are you going to be selecting two players? Are you going to be selecting one player? And then that would go through, and then you would have to release a player that anybody else, if they're of age, anybody else can draft that player as well, right? And then there's different categories. If you have a first round pick that doesn't report and he's a European, he would go on a frozen list. A lot of details that way that isn't really worth getting into, quite honestly. But the bottom line is, yeah, if you're going to take a player, you have to have room on your roster for that player.
Every time I learn something, I'm just more and more glad I don't have your job. That sounds
it's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, let's jump into round 11. We're almost done here with the draft. You've got quite an undersized player. Obviously, you know, 5'7" is what's listed. I think just around 140 pounds is Alex Taylor. He's probably, I would assume, a speedy, hardworking player by the size of him. So maybe you can give us a little more insight into the game he plays.
Michael Deck.
Really?
That's why we drafted him. Could he be Michael Deck? That's him. That's all I've got to say to people. And I think they have to paint themselves a pretty good picture. And he's not 140 pounds. Like he's not. He's not. He's small. So what? You know what? Let's give him a couple of years. I think we drafted Michael Deck. He was 5'5", 132 pounds, 137 pounds. Maybe not even. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. But Michael Deck can play. I think we all know that, right? So, but that's, you know, the Taylor boy. That's why we drafted him, to see if he could be Michael Deck.
Awesome. Well, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum now, you've got your round 12 draft pick, and I don't know how often it is that you're getting in the 12th round a 6'5" player over 200 pounds. Clearly there was something, and I think a right-hand shot as well. Yeah. So obviously there's something about this kid that stood out for a winger being that size. Like, are you getting hooky vibes out of him, or what kind of player is this?
You know what? That's actually a decent comparison. And now not hooky at 20, okay, but hooky at 16, 17, yes. But he's a big kid. He's a pretty good skater. Might be a better skater than Hooks. For him, it's his consistency. Oakley's got to be a little bit more consistent. Shift in, shift out, game in, game out. But his best shift is it can be heavy. He can play heavier though, and he has good skills. He makes good plays. He's strong on the wall, and he's got tremendous size. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Well, excuse me. You can't teach size, so that's
you can't. No, you can't. And you know what? Like I said, he's big and his feet are pretty good. A lot of times, if you're that big and you're 15, your feet really looks awful. No, he looks coordinated enough at 15. I'd like to see where he is at, say, at the end of his 16s, coming in as a 17-year-old.
Okay. Next up here in round 13, you've got Lucas Quain. Now, 5'7", 171 pounds is what's listed. Left winger, seems like maybe a little shorter, but fairly average sized player. And what kind of player is this? Is this guy coming out of? It looks like Toronto Junior Canadians here.
Yeah, Nick, he's got very good skills. He's a guy that I was blown away when somebody brought his name up, and I said, "Is that number 34?" And they're like, "Yeah." I go, "Come on, like we have to consider this guy. He's got good feet. He's very strong on his feet. He has good puck skills. He's hard to knock off the puck. Smart, makes plays. Just a really good player and really good pick there. I was really shocked that he was still on the table when his name was brought up. So that one was, quite honestly, that was pretty easy for us to take him.
Okay, that's good to know. How often does that happen? Where, is it just a player? Is it that he doesn't fit systems, or he just kind of, how does he fall under the radar like that?
You know what? It's so if you ever saw the way the draft works, there's about 25 kids that comes up on my screen, and then if they're not on that screen, that's to go beyond that. You're really venturing into different rounds, right? So, but all of a sudden, when somebody's taken off, that screen moves up one player. Somebody else is taken up, like whether it's because if I have 25 kids on that right-hand side of my screen, and the next kid goes and now he's off. Next kid goes, now he's off. He's part of that 25. Well, all of a sudden his name is the 25th name. Now he's a guy that we can talk about, right? Not that you can't talk about them before that, but I think that's the right way to do it. If they're on that screen, we can talk about it. All of a sudden his name come up and we're like, holy smokes, let's talk about this, right? So that's how easy it was. As soon as we saw his name, it was pretty easy.
So about how many picks in advance are you guys kind of having these conversations about players? Would it be kind of the whole round? You're talking about one or two or three guys, or obviously there's a risk that the 19 other teams could take them. So
100%. Yeah, sorry for cutting you off, Nick. But yeah, you're right. You know what? You've got your guy, and we're going. We will keep track. We've got 2 centermen, a right winger, 3 defensemen. Okay, 2 left wingers. Okay, let's look at the right wingers, right? Or let's look at the forwards, as opposed to if you can cut the D out of the equation and you look down your 25 and you've got 9 defensemen in there. Well, we're going to look at the other. Do we need more skill? Let's divvy that up into heavier guys and skilled guys, and it kind of sifts everybody out if you're looking for certain things, and that's what we do. And then you'll put a list of 4 or 5 kids, and then as the draft goes on, if 2 of them are gone and you're looking at this kid or that kid, everybody does the work for you, quite honestly, as long as you got a good, up-to-date, smart list. It really is.
Excellent. All right. Well, we've got two more picks to look at here. Round 14, going at number 268, Luca Nardilli. Now, tall kid, centerman. You talked about centerman there a moment ago, coming out of the Ontario Minor Hockey Association from Niagara Falls. What do you like about Luca's game?
Another good-sized kid, good feet. Was for me, he was always noticeable when I watched him play, and for no reason other than just the fact that he was taller, good feet, really played a 200-foot game, and for me was always noticeable, and I knew he would be a guy that would be a later pick. So we'll another guy. We'll see how it all plays out for him, but I think he'll be an interesting guy to watch come September.
Excellent. And your final pick of the draft going to Justin Sekulovsky.
Yep.
I think that's probably
that's how I would say it.
All right. Perfect. What kind of strategy goes into picking in the 14th and 15th round? Like, obviously, you're looking for certain things, but are you looking at a player where everybody in the room goes, he's going to be an interesting 17-year-old player?
Well, he's a smaller, skilled guy, right? And if he grows, he's going to be interesting. And that's, you take a little shot, you take a little chance, and he's got good skills, good feet. If he grows a little bit, if he gets to 6 foot, he's going to be an interesting player. Not so much this September, but the following September. And that's where you're looking at a lot of these kids from 10 on, or whatever the number is on, right? It's to get them to come in and see what it's about in this September, and then realize, honestly, just how hard it is to play in the OHL, and then work all year, and we'll be in contact with them all winter, and then have them come back and then see if there's been much growth. Do you know what I mean? And not just growth in their game, but growth in height too. And it's sometimes, you get a guy that grows 4 or 5 inches between now and a year and a half. It could be interesting.
Well, Shazi and I were discussing last week that we might have to start giving the parents medicals just so that we can, see what's in store for some of these young guys.
Well, it'd be nice if that was as easy as that. But you know what? We do spend some time. Like, I like to spend time in the common area at the arena, and see where some of the kids, because they've all got numbers and names on their bags and coats and stuff, and you're assuming that, okay, those are his parents, right? And they're going, oh, they're like 6'5", or the dad's 6'5", the mom's 5'9". This kid's not going to stay 5'5" for very long.
Right.
You wouldn't think, right? But sometimes it's worthwhile just standing around in the lobby.
Excellent. Awesome. So I'm curious then, your strategy going into this draft. Obviously, it's a unique draft where you can draft some of these 07s. And, like you said, that won't be likely the case next year. But obviously, like, you probably had a different strategy this year than you would have last year, we'll say.
There's no question. We actually targeted Nick Sikora as a guy that we think we might have a chance to bring into Owen Sound, and other than really like Max DeLille, it's hard to say who's going to be there when you're picking. Even when we picked in the second round at 28, you don't know. Like, there could have been 10 defensemen taken, from 10 to 20, and then you don't know who you're going to get. You know what I mean? Like, I can sit there right now and say, between Max, hands down, one of the top 10 best forwards in the draft. Blake Munnings, one of the top 10 best defensemen in the draft. That's crazy. That's awesome. Those are 2 good picks to put, Lennon Jackman, who, like I said to you, I thought might have been a top 10 pick or a first round pick, and to get him where we got him, feel fortunate about that. So 3 really good picks. Take a shot at Nick Sikora. We weren't sure if we were going to take him in the 3rd or open up day 4 or the 4th round in day 2. and take them there. I just thought that we did so well with our first three. It's worth a shot at the, reaching for the stars.
Now, fans are going to get a chance here to meet some of these players, and you guys do obviously the summer Owen Sound Attack barbecue, and I think that's
June
coming
7th.
up in. Pardon me.
June 7th.
June 7th. So, if I'm not mistaken, I believe tickets are on sale already, and fans can have an opportunity to come and meet some of these young players. What is obviously we're a small town, and this kind of thing, it feels like it really only works with a team like us. Do you see other teams doing things like this?
Nope, nobody in the league, and I love it. I love it. It's one of the best days, and I don't know if Brent Fisher is watching this, who was our PR guy the first number of years that I was there. I think he was the only guy, around the Attack organization that wanted to squash it as fast as he could. And I think he kept trying to have the date earlier or later in May so that we could have poorer weather, so that we would, if we had a couple years back to back where it was poor weather, we would just say, okay, we can't do this anymore. But we've stuck with it. We keep going forward. For me, Nick, it is a fantastic. The kids love it. The parents love it. Any of the fans that come out, they have a blast. They get to see the kids. What I love is that you get to see the kids in an environment that is not natural. And the coordination, some kids have never played, thrown a ball, caught a ball. It can be funny. But it's awesome. The camaraderie with the kids on the team, and it's fantastic.
Well, I know. I think I was talking to Kindry after the last game. I think he's already gone home to start practicing. He said he's planning on hitting dingers all summer. So,
we'll see. We'll see. But it really is it's a good day. It's a good day. Weather permitting, obviously, but we haven't been canceled yet. I'm gonna touch wood that we maintain the streak of good weather and success and fun.
Excellent. Awesome. Another big call out too for our coaches running a summer camp now, really building into the community. We don't have time to talk about it now, but just Dale, another call out to you and a thank you for building this team. I think, on behalf of myself, anybody watching, we really enjoyed this year. It was a great year to watch, regardless of how many games we got to play in the playoffs. I think making the playoffs was excitement enough for us this year. Just a year full of hope. And I think that's the general consensus. So I just want to thank you for coming on the show. And if we had more time, I'd let you respond to that.
Nick,
we don't.
If I half a second,
yeah,
if anybody is looking to billet any of these players, I'm always looking for billets. If you can go on our website, there is a become a billet tag, push that, apply to it. I'll get your application and we'll be in touch. But we're always looking for new billets. If you're interested, I'd love to hear from you.
Excellent. Join us next week, and it's our final show of the year. We'll be giving away this wonderful jersey here. See you next week here on Rogers TV.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com. This federal election will reshape Canada's political landscape and our country's approach to domestic and international issues. Get to know the candidates running to be your MP and represent your interests in Ottawa. Hear from your local candidates during Rogers TV's coverage of the local campaign. And on election night, Rogers TV delivers the local results. Rogers TV. Watch, learn, vote.
It's time to get a little messy.
Thursdays, Top Chef heads north.
Welcome to Toronto.
And when the competition hits Canada,
Poutine.
Poutine.